It's my pleasure to introduce the three poets that are reading today. And if you've been here in past years, which probably some of you have, you know that this time slot has always been it's been reserved for Maryland or Baltimore poets, which I think this city and the state should be proud. There's no shortage of gifted poets in this area, and today we have an example of three more. I'm going to give a brief introduction before each poet reads, so you know who they are, and we'll just reserve all the time for the reading, and then afterwards, if you have a question for the poet or you want to buy their book, which would be wonderful, they'll be signing their books out here at the table afterwards. The first poet reading today is Michael Fallon, and he teaches creative writing at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. He is a poet and an essayist. His poems have been widely published in numerous magazines, national magazines, CDs, anthologies, and his work frequently appears on public radio. His earlier book of poetry, published in 1991, is A History of the Color Black, and he was a winner of a 2009 Maryland Arts Council Fellowship in Poetry. In 2011, Plan B Press put up this beautiful chapbook of his, which I'm holding up, and he'll also be reading some poems from this today. That was the winner of the Plan B Press chapbook competition. And most recently, he had a book appear just last year from Brickhouse Press, The Great Before and After. And again, that came out just last September, and I believe we'll also be reading from that book today. And with that, I give you Michael Fallon.
CityLit for putting this on in the Pratt Library.
I wonder if you could put the microphone closer to you.
Is that it? Can you hear me now?
Better.
Like I'm trying to get a cell phone.
Joe, we can turn it off.
Okay, so you can hear me now? That's good? All right, thank you. Anyway, what I said was, in case you didn't hear me, I want to thank David for introducing me and CityLit for putting on this wonderful day of events, and Pratt for sponsoring it. So I'm going to read from both books, a little bit from both books. I'm going to start with Since You Have No Body, which is a book, it's an elegiac book that I wrote after a number of my friends died in just a few years, all my closest friends. And so this is a book that sort of mourns them and tries to deal with their passing. The epigram of the book is, a friend is one before whom I can think aloud. And it's from Emerson. The book is dedicated to all my friends, future, present, and past. Siren. A scream in search of a mouth. A siren is Dopplering the distance. A whirling flash shot through intersections, nearer, searching the streets, the numbered row houses, the seconds, hours, years. Perhaps it blared past while you were off to the opera in a cab, narrowly missed, made a U and a right. Now somewhere out ahead, that bloody light repeats itself in a doorway, on the ceiling. A gurney lifts into the air, double doors wham. Anyone who can grips their ears. On and on and on, that long red scar of sound. This is called Soundings, and I wrote this for my friend Alex Stewart, who was not a bit of a philosopher, he was a philosopher. And every once in a while, Alec would try to back the world into a corner and kind of shut himself in for a couple of weeks at a time, and this is a description of what he was doing. It's called Soundings. With your hash pipe, desk lamp, console of books to navigate. You were the single crewman of a submarine, slipped beneath the sonar of unanswered doorbells and phone calls. Weeks into the dive, you calculated the effects of isolation, inhaled the stale air of visionaries and suicides. Did any of your philosophers hold at the crushing depth? Did God break the code of silence? Like a Cousteau, an Icarus, like a lost star, you descended into the fathomless dark, alert to the oracles of loneliness, hallucinations, soundings of the real. After your death, the flotsam surfaced on your blotter, ashes, note cards in script, indecipherable. This is a poem called A Quarrel with Loss. This is a poem for the poet Barbara Simon, who many of you may have known, who was often here reading or listening, and I think her spirit must be here today. She wrote a book called A Woman from Away, and it's a term that Mainers use for people that don't live there. I thought that was a good title. Anyway, I definitely wanted to make sure I read this for her today. A Quarrel with Loss. Oh, by the way, when I say I am by I am here, I'm also thinking of the heartbeat, and I am is like a heartbeat. It's a pump. I am by I am. Every syllable means less of you. What is poetry but losing? A quarrel with loss. Commentary on the fall. The loon gone from the lake. A yellow leaf swirling into shadow beneath the gliding stern. Barbara, though you are away, the leaves brighten and pale. The loon holds its breath down deep somewhere, south of you. Your solitudes repeat themselves, the lack of waves, the music of thought transfixed into lines and words is living beauty, loving testimony, epitaph. This poem is called Trial, and in it I refer to the movie Passion of Joan of Arc, which was made in the 20s, a black and white film, and the music that the composer, the oratorio that Richard Einhorn, the composer, wrote when he saw the film and was inspired by it. Now, the film was missing. It was made in the 20s, but there was only one print of it left in the world. It was discovered in 1963, if you can believe this, in a closet in a Norwegian insane asylum. I'm not kidding. It's really the truth. So, how it got there, don't ask me. But anyway, this is called Trial. In a closet, in a Norwegian insane asylum, Joan of Arc weeps copious tears through grave, transparent eyes. But someone has discovered her there, in the dark, after decades, centuries. Her fate examined by ecclesiastics in black and white, how she clings to her voices, condemns herself, again and again to Richard Einhorn's music as I sit and listen to her burn in my little halo of light. Against all argument, all doubt, each of us is a war of voices, saints and inquisitors, self or soul, God or not. We hover in belief. The air ripples, flames lick and sear. This is called July Cathedral. remember the ruthless warehouse, its arched windows of air, its cargo of cornflowers, Queen Anne's lace whirling in blue and white thousands about her knees. Underfoot, shattered brick, blackened timber, the smell of old fires. Outside, the din of semis thundering to Dundalk. The blast of tugs hauling a string of barges up the brown Patapsco. Back inside, the silence of a ruined cathedral, the hum of bees, where we sit among wildflowers. Overhead, a gull hangs on a momentary breeze. Change gears and read from The Great Before and After, which is a book with a lot more humor in it, lighter. It's I call it a book of cartoon myths, and I'm going to give you a couple of those. The first one is Origin Myth number 451, and I think there are 10,007, and this is 451, and they're all true. Okay? Once, at the far end of time, before the wristwatch and the riddle, before stop and go, early or late, there was nothing. And as far as nothing knew, there had never been anything. But when nothing began to consider the compound syllables of its own name, no and thing, it could see that its very name, no, its very existence, implied something. But as far as its transparent eye could see, there was only transparency, horizon after horizon. And it called out across time in its great hollow voice to its farthest other end. And there was something who had been thinking, if there was indeed something, should there not then be something else? And it called out across the horizons and knew, because no echo returned, that there was nothing out there. Somewhere. Like question and answer, each found the other irresistible. But since neither could be at the same place at once, they bent time into a wide circle. And they pursue each other, desperately, endlessly, about the broad ring of existence, faster than the speed of sight. And so, everything is made of unequal parts, nothing and something, to our eternal disappointment and delight. Thus the visible and invisible, light and darkness, yes and no, the zero and the one, you, me, we. I'm going to read you a poem now called In the Book of All That Is. And don't worry, this is a much abridged version. Okay? In the Book of All That Is. After the chapter on origins, the first shinings and spinnings, after the first shapes, fire and emptiness, earth, sky, rain cloud, after the rising of waters, fin, gill, and eye, after lung and claw, ice and ember, skull and stone. The chapter on Homo sapiens, though thin, is significant. Each lifetime a shape in ink, an illuminated letter, a shadow on the long white plane or page. The sentences, paragraphs, columns punctuated by the comings and goings of comets. The longer passages ending in conquest, drought, or plague. And before the page is turned, each adds himself. And perhaps after long and last, when will be is was, and was is no more. Perhaps one who comes after will open again the nights and the days, and turning the pages, pronouncing carefully, will again feel the wind of the breath in the throat, the shape of each letter on the lips, the tongue, trembling in the air. One last poem. The wind of the beginning turns the windmill of thought, is the mountain of air all wings climb. The stars are its frozen breath. The wind of the beginning is always blown end over end. What is far off comes near. What is near vanishes. All is lifted, all held, all set at rest. Each day a shining out of the depths.